Hi guys, welcome to All Things Bell being me. Thank you so much to everyone who took their time to watch my previous videos on symptoms of rejection. And today I wanted to look a little bit about the effects and the reasons why we get rejected on a day-to-day basis. I'm speaking mostly from my own experiences and the lessons that I've learned along the way. So when I think about why I went through rejection to begin with, now where I am looking back at it, I can say it was mostly to build my character. The word says that God will use that which was meant to harm us and for evil for us, he will use it for good. And honestly, I can say from my standpoint, how he used rejection for my good was for the sole purpose of building my character and to prepare me for the kind of ministry that I'll have. Jesus himself, he went through the same thing, and the goal was for him to have integrity, dependability, and humility when it comes to dealing with God. If you think about how you are created, and if all of us have a purpose, or we are here to find to become solutions to someone else's problem, then that in essence means we all have our own ministry. And ministry here, I'm not saying you think of standing in a pulpit to teach. There's some who are called to be teachers, there's some who are called to be encouragers of other people, there's some who are called to show mercy, there's some who are called to, bring joy. Like, there are people who, I don't know, but the aura around them when they enter into a room, everyone is like, wow, like there's just a joyful spirit about them. So each and every one of us has a gift that we serve other people with. And as we looked on rejection in the previous vlog, I don't know how to call it, we saw that it mostly inhibits us from becoming the person that we were created to be. And when you look at why you're rejected, I mean, there are a plethora of reasons. It can rise from anything. You don't have to have a specific thing. The mere fact that we were different, and I think God intended the differences that we have to be something worth celebrating, but we find ourselves often rejecting each other, ridiculing each other, making fun of each other because we're different, not realizing the differences in our character, in our personality, in our appearance. Like, that is the beauty of how God created us. And it wasn't by chance, it wasn't by mistake. When he made you, he was intentional about how you look, from the strands on your head to your face, how it looks, to the curviness of your body, to your height, to the number of teeth that you'll have. Like, everything, literally everything about you, when he made you, he was intentional about it. And instead of and I think that's a point that we should learn. Like, we ought to celebrate each other's differences. Now imagine if we all looked the same. There wouldn't be anything special about it. Like, I don't think we'd have anything special. But I know I'm special and I'm unique by mere fact that there's no one out there who looks like me, and there's no one who's me. I'm one of myself. Like, there's just one Rose. We can be there are many people called Rose, but not everyone is this Rose, specifically me, and I'm not them, and I don't want to be like them, neither do I want to try to be like them. And it's a long journey. It is a long journey. And in 2017, I decided to embark on this journey, and thank God I had a friend of mine who'd help me. So the task that they told me to do was to write down the names of every person who's ever hurt me in my entire existence. And mind you, at that time, I think I was 22, turning 23. So let's say 2018. Yes, 23 years old. And I started writing down the process, and in between I was like, this is a Pandora's box. If I open it, I don't know how I will come out of this one. I don't want to enter, because what is the guarantee? Maybe I might end up being broken more than I am. And Nile, you're trying to save face. You're like, I don't think it's that bad off. And I think in the end of 2018, it's when I think life hit me black and blue until I was purple, and I was like, I think it's time. I can't. I was imagining my life 10 years from that point, me being married, what kind of partner I would be, me being a mom, what kind of mom will I be, what will I pass down to my kids, will it be healing or will I wound them, what will I bring to the table when it comes to having romantic partners? Will I bring wounds and hold them to an expectation that they can't even meet up to, and this person was even not aware that they were signing up for some expectations, you know, like nile unachapa msee na vitu zenye ako ana expect. And so I actually did write down every person who hurt me, and my friend did lead me into prayer, and he would tell me, for mention the person by name, so and so, what so and so did, and how you feel about it, and the fact that, and you say you forgive them and you release them, like that. That kind of like initiated me into the healing process, but it didn't quite deal with it summarily. And what I learned was, when John Dawson in his book talking about the healing of America's wounds, he said wounds that stand open and unhealed do not heal with the passage of time. And in fact, time doesn't heal wounds. It only gives you time to learn to live with them. Meaning, if someone poked at that wound, it will start bleeding again, and it will start oozing a myriad of sicknesses. Because you can imagine leaving a wound open. Of course, bacteria does infect it, and it can end up being a whole other mess. So you aren't even dealing with the fresh wound itself. It's a stale wound that has on top of it other bacteria that also need to be tended to. So by the time you're going to Hosi, it's a whole different story. I don't even want to get into the graphics of how it looks like. And I asked God, I need you to tell me, to show me the root of this problem, because I need to have a different view of life. I can't live like this anymore. And I remember sitting down with my mom one time, and she started telling me the story of how life was for her back then. Granted, yes, I do not hold anything against my mom. She has her own journey, and one thing that in the book of Becoming Michelle Obama says, we all need a little bit of tolerance, because everyone has a history of where they came from. Don't be quick to even judge your parents and other people, because even them, they have their own story, and their story does affect them. So you got them when they were, maybe they had one foot and they were limping, and you're there expecting them to be able to walk on with their 2 feet, but then they have one, so they can't help but limp. That being said, she told me, Rose, I love you, but when I was pregnant with you, I didn't want you. Life for me at that time was tough, issues in her own marriage, with her own in-laws. By the time, like, she was getting my sister, who's our firstborn, already there were issues, and ametoka hapa ni mpetu sana zani sijui ni wako sijui those kind of shenanigans. So they're already planting seeds of doubt, and zile bango na I'll say 18, and then I come along, and I think the one thing that stuck out for me in that story was when I was born, and niko kwa hiyo kotenganekanga watu iko Hosi. One of our relatives comes, and he looks down at me, and he just bursts out laughing, and he's like, so sasa kazi yako ni kupata asichana, sasa huyu atakusaidia na nini? And he said it mocking my dad, and I can imagine what that does to an African man's ego, because I don't know, you feel like the minute you have a son, it's like say, and that for me set the pace of how I will spiral down. And I never felt like I measured up. I always felt like I had something to prove. Even as a kid, it's like I always wanted to make my dad be proud of me, but then even when it came to schoolwork, and always not kind of in a state where it's like you're competing with your cousin who's a guy, always being compared. He's got this, and then you work your ass off to score karibu na Kenya score, and granted I did end up performing so well, and if there's one thing that makes me happy is making him proud and letting him know, you know what, even I can make you proud. But then you can see, like, for me, everything was motivated, please love me, please accept me. And I think the minute I had that story, as painful as it was to hear, you can imagine hearing that story, it helped me realize that it's like the devil had marked me from the word go. Even before I knew what this world looked like, he had already marked me for rejection, marked me to be To be deceived by rejection marked me not to have a sense of worth. And I asked why he did that, and I got the answer, which is to blind me from becoming the woman God made me to be. I love the fact that I can rely on God because he has a way of turning that everything that was meant to harm you for your good, and how he uses it for your good is that he uses that thing to sharpen your character for you to be able to learn to have integrity, to be solely dependent on God, and to have a sense of humility. I, for one, cannot stand in a place and talk to people from a place of say, because at the back of my mind, I know to be where I am, it took the hand of God to retrieve me from the pit that the devil had designated to be mine. I'm cautious enough to want to deal with rejection because, one, I do not want bitterness and resentment to influence the message that I teach to people, to influence the impact I have on other people that I will meet along this journey of life. I do not want unhealed wounds to be a destructive element in my area of calling, be it passion or purpose. I do not want it to be that. I do not want the scabs, the spiritual scabs that it has kind of impacted in my life, to stay there and live in unforgiveness. I want to take every wound that I have to the cross, because it's the only place that I know I will find healing, I'll find solace, I'll find peace, I'll find joy, I'll find love, and I'll find acceptance. His word says he's given us the spirit of sonship, and by that spirit we're able to cry out, Abba, Father. Why not for the spirit of sonship we wouldn't be able to call God our Father? Abba, Father, meaning Father, Father. And it's a point to note that when people have buried their hearts and rejection in real anger, their lives are fertile ground for enemy activity. And how the enemy works is mostly to deceive you into having that, shades kind of perception of life, where the shades literally block you from really seeing life through God's own lasers that are double-edged swords. Get? And at the end of the day, cha muhimu kwako ni to be whole. Because guess what? And this is something I'm thinking of teaching and sharing about, because it's also something I've also learned. When you're not healed, when you have wounds of rejection, your goal in being in a relationship is to satisfy the need and never to chase after purpose or service. You always want to be served. So you will end up being the taker in the relationship and not the giver. Rejection will cost you peace. It cost King Saul. King Saul suffered from rejection. This man knew he was a Benjamite. He was the least, like his tribe was the least. He was the least in his family. I mean, even when you read 1 Samuel 9:10, through those two verses, like those two chapters, it points out where he was when God was anointing him. By the time he was being anointed, he was hiding. That's chapter 10 verse 22. He was hiding chini ya equipments asionekane ndio akuwa anointed. Verse 27 of the same chapter says that when he was anointed, he already received a lot of rejection, and the guys started rebelling against him, and they didn't even come and give him gifts. After coronation, people just come and gift the new king. Now that happened. And you can see it cost him, because he ended up reigning with the guise of wanting to prove a point to people. To an extent, he ended up becoming proud. Rejection gives you insecurity. Most people mask their insecurities with pride. And it cost him, because he ended up being disobedient to the very person in whom he had found favor in. And when God rejected Saul and chose David on his part, he knew what it was like to be favored. So he went after David, because it's how umzana kamwa kunishambulia nini. And the songs that guys kept on singing of, oh, this one, Saul has only managed to kill 1,000, David has killed 10,000. You can imagine what he was doing to him. Like, he was sinking in the same poison he kept on taking and taking. So I would urge everyone, if you're suffering from this, please take it to God. Walk with God until He heals you completely. It might take years. Mine has been, like 2-3 years process and I'm still going through it, just hang in there and be faithful for God, like to God to work with you until He transforms you by the renewal of your mind. The reason as to why scripture is so big on your mind and being transformed, because God knows transformation first. True transformation occurs in how we think, because how we think shapes our lives. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Your life is a constant reflection of your thoughts. So the best way is for you to cling onto the person who is able to give you a laser view of life through his word concerning what he says over you, for you to be able to be transformed pole pole in how you think. Thus you will become effective to walk in the area of influence that God ordained to be yours. That being said, thank you so much for watching this video. I know probably nimekuwa refu, but stay tuned and please subscribe. Bye.